Some people spend their entire lives searching for the one person who changes everything. The funny thing is, they usually show up when you have already stopped looking. Rain hammered against the windows of Nathan Blackwood's black SUV as it crawled through downtown Chicago just after midnight. The city shimmered beneath streetlights and reflections, alive with noise and movement, yet he felt none of it. At 36, Nathan owned more buildings than he could remember and controlled enough businesses to make headlines whenever he sneezed. None of it mattered anymore. Success had become routine. Wealth had become background noise. Even loneliness had become familiar. The driver glanced into the rearview mirror. "Home, sir." Nathan stared through the rain-streaked glass. Not yet. 10 minutes later, he stepped into a small diner tucked between a laundromat and a closed hardware store. The neon sign outside flickered weakly against the storm. Warm air wrapped around him the moment he entered. Coffee, bacon, fresh pie, ordinary smells from an ordinary place. The kind of place he had not visited in years. A few late-night customers looked up before quickly returning to their meals. Nathan preferred it that way. He moved toward a corner booth and loosened his tie. For the first time all day, nobody wanted anything from him. Then he heard a voice. "I am so sorry." A young waitress had collided with another server while carrying a pot of coffee. A few drops splashed across Nathan's white dress shirt. The diner froze. Forks stopped moving. Conversations died. Even the old jukebox suddenly seemed quieter. The waitress looked horrified. Nathan slowly raised his eyes. Blonde hair, pale blue eyes, a simple uniform. No fear, no panic, just embarrassment and honesty. "I really am sorry," she said again. "That was completely my fault." Nathan waited for the usual reaction. The trembling, the apologies, the nervous recognition that often followed once people figured out who he was. None came. She grabbed a towel and handed it to him. "Good news," she said. "It is coffee. If it had been blueberry pie, we would both be having a much worse night." A few customers laughed softly. Nathan blinked. Then, against all logic, he almost smiled. "Almost. You always joke after spilling coffee on strangers?" he asked. "Only the ones who look like they forgot how." That answer caught him completely off guard. The waitress pointed toward the empty seat across from him. "You have been frowning since you walked in." Nathan stared at her. Nobody spoke to him that way. Not employees. Not business partners. Not politicians. Certainly not strangers. Yet somehow it did not feel disrespectful. It felt honest. Refreshingly honest. She extended her hand. "Olivia Hayes." Nathan glanced at her hand before shaking it. "Nathan. Nice to meet you, Nathan." Then she walked away to help another table, as if their conversation had been perfectly normal. Nathan watched her move through the diner, smiling at customers, refilling coffee cups, remembering names, making people feel seen. Something strange settled in his chest. Not attraction. Not yet. Something rarer. Curiosity. For the first time in years, he found himself wondering about someone else's story. And for reasons he could not explain, when Olivia glanced back and caught him watching, Nathan Blackwood realized he was not in a hurry to leave. The next night, Nathan told himself he was not going back because of Olivia. That explanation lasted exactly 7 minutes. By the time his SUV stopped outside the diner again, he had already abandoned the lie. Rain no longer fell over Chicago. The streets glowed beneath clear skies and cold spring air. Inside the diner, the familiar warmth greeted him immediately. The same jukebox played near the counter. The same elderly couple occupied their usual booth. The same scent of coffee drifted through the room. And there she was. Olivia stood behind the register balancing 3 conversations at once while somehow keeping everyone smiling. She noticed him the second he walked through the door. "Well, look who survived the coffee incident." Nathan felt something strange happen. The corner of his mouth lifted. An actual smile. Small but real. "I figured I would give the place another chance." Olivia pointed toward his booth. Brave decision. 10 minutes later, she delivered his coffee. "No accidents this time," she said proudly. Nathan glanced at the mug. "That sounds suspiciously like a challenge." Olivia laughed. The sound was bright. Genuine. It lingered in his mind long after she walked away. For the next hour, Nathan watched her interact with customers. Not because he meant to, because it was impossible not to. She remembered birthdays, asked about sick relatives, encouraged nervous college students before exams. She treated everyone as though their lives mattered. Most people spent time trying to impress powerful individuals. Olivia seemed more interested in making ordinary people feel important. The realization stayed with him. Near closing time, Nathan placed several $100s beneath his coffee cup before standing to leave. It was nothing to him. For a diner waitress working late shifts, it could make a difference. At least that was what he assumed. Nathan. He turned. Olivia stood behind him holding the folded bills. You forgot this. No, I did not. She stared at the money. Then at him. Then back at the money. This tip is bigger than my rent. Then keep it. Olivia shook her head immediately. Absolutely not. Nathan blinked. Why? Because I served coffee, not performed surgery. He almost laughed. Most people would take it. Most people are not me. She gently pressed the money into his hand. You already paid for your meal. Nathan studied her face. No hesitation. No performance. She genuinely meant it. You know who I am, don't you? The question slipped out before he could stop it. Olivia crossed her arms. Should I? Most people do. That sounds exhausting. Nathan stared at her. Then, unexpectedly, so did she. The noise of the diner faded for a moment. Neither looked away. Finally, Olivia broke the silence. Can I tell you something? You seem like the type who does anyway. That earned another laugh. You look like a man who has everything. Nathan said nothing. Olivia's expression softened slightly. But you also look lonely. The words landed harder than any insult ever could. Because they were true. Completely true. Nathan looked toward the window where city lights reflected against the glass. For years he had hidden behind success. Behind influence. Behind control. Yet somehow a waitress in a small diner had seen through all of it in less than 2 nights. And as he walked back into the Chicago night, one uncomfortable thought followed him all the way home. Olivia Hayes might be the first person in years who actually saw him. For the next 2 weeks, Nathan found reasons to visit the diner almost every night. At first, he told himself it was convenience. The food was decent. The coffee was fresh. The place was quiet. None of those explanations survived very long. The truth was sitting behind the counter with blonde hair and blue eyes. Olivia never treated him differently. That alone made her different from everyone else. One evening, Nathan arrived earlier than usual. The diner was busy. Every booth was occupied. Olivia moved between tables carrying plates and refilling drinks with the effortless rhythm of someone who had done the job for years. Yet despite the crowd, she still noticed him the moment he entered. You are early, she called from across the room. Nathan sat at his usual booth. Is that a problem? Only if you expect special treatment. He almost smiled. I would never. Good answer. 20 minutes later, she delivered his order without writing anything down. Turkey sandwich. Black coffee. Extra pickles. Nathan looked up. You remembered. Olivia shrugged. I remember everyone's order. Nathan watched her walk away. Somehow that answer disappointed him. He was not special. Just another customer. The realization should have annoyed him. Instead, it made him respect her more. Near closing time, the crowd finally thinned. Olivia dropped into the booth across from him with a tired sigh and a glass of iced tea. Long day? Nathan asked. Olivia laughed softly. You have no idea. For the first time, he noticed the exhaustion beneath her smile. Not weakness. Fatigue. The kind that comes from carrying responsibilities nobody else sees. You should rest. Olivia pointed toward the counter where an older woman struggled with inventory paperwork. After I helped Mrs. Donnelly finish closing. You are not being paid for that. I know. Nathan frowned. Then why do it? Olivia looked genuinely confused by the question. Because she needs help. The answer was so simple that it left him speechless. Most people calculated every favor, every advantage, every transaction. Olivia helped because someone needed help. Nothing more. Nothing less. As she stood to leave, her phone vibrated. Nathan caught a glimpse of the screen before she quickly locked it. A hospital notification. The smile on her face faded for a second. Just a second. But he noticed. He always noticed things. Everything okay? He asked. Olivia forced the smile back into place. Just life. Then she walked away. The answer stayed with him long after he left. The next morning, Nathan sat in his penthouse office overlooking Chicago. The city stretched for miles beneath gray clouds. Vincent Harper, his longtime security chief, stood across the desk reviewing schedules. Nathan stared out the window before speaking. I need a favor. Vincent raised an eyebrow. That usually means trouble. Nathan ignored the comment. Find out if Olivia Hayes is okay. Vincent blinked. The waitress. Yes. A small grin appeared on Vincent's face. Interesting. Nathan shot him a look. Do not make this weird. Too late. 3 days later, Vincent placed a folder on Nathan's desk. Nathan opened it and immediately felt his chest tighten. Olivia was working 2 jobs, one at the diner, another at a grocery store on weekends. The hospital notifications were connected to her younger brother, Ethan, 20 years old, congenital heart condition, ongoing treatments, mounting medical bills. Nathan stared at the file for a long time. Suddenly, the tired smile made sense. The long hours, the endless energy she somehow forced herself to find every day. She was carrying more weight than anyone realized. And for the first time in years, Nathan wanted to help someone not because he could, because he genuinely cared what happened to them. The information followed Nathan everywhere for the next few days. It sat beside him during meetings. It lingered in the back of his mind while executives presented reports. It even followed him home to the penthouse overlooking the Chicago skyline. Olivia Hayes was working herself into exhaustion while somehow remaining the kindest person in every room she entered. The more he learned about her, the less he understood how she kept smiling. On Thursday evening, Nathan arrived at the diner later than usual. The dinner rush had already begun. Every table was occupied. Conversations blended with the sound of dishes and the smell of fresh coffee. Olivia moved through the crowd with her usual energy, but this time Nathan noticed the details. The slight tiredness beneath her eyes. The way she briefly rubbed her shoulder when she thought nobody was watching. The deep breath she took before greeting each new customer with another smile. Most people would have missed those things. Nathan did not. "You are staring again," Olivia said as she placed his coffee on the table. Nathan looked up. "Maybe you are easy to notice." Olivia rolled her eyes. "That sounded smoother in your head." To his surprise, Nathan laughed. A real laugh. Not the polite version he used during business dinners. Olivia looked almost shocked. "There it is." "What?" "Proof that you are actually human." Nathan shook his head. "I am beginning to regret talking to you." "No, you are not." The confidence in her answer made him smile again. Later that night, the diner finally emptied. Rain tapped softly against the windows while employees cleaned tables and prepared for closing. Nathan remained in his booth longer than usual. Olivia sat across from him with a cup of tea. For several minutes, neither spoke. The silence felt comfortable. Unexpectedly comfortable. "Can I ask you something?" Nathan finally said. Olivia nodded. "Sure. Why do you work so much?" The question caught her off guard. She looked down at her tea. "Everybody works. Not like you." Olivia stared into the steaming cup. For the first time since meeting her, she seemed unsure what to say. "My brother needs me," she answered quietly. Nathan already knew that, yet hearing it from her felt different. More personal. More honest. "You love him very much." A small smile appeared. "He is my favorite person in the world." Nathan noticed the warmth in her eyes immediately. "Tell me about him." For the next 20 minutes, Olivia talked about Ethan. His stubbornness. His terrible jokes. His love of baseball. The way he still believed every problem could somehow be solved. Nathan listened carefully. Not because he felt obligated. Because he genuinely wanted to hear every word. Then Olivia's phone buzzed. Her expression changed the moment she saw the screen. Concern replaced warmth. She quickly stood. "I need to go." Nathan rose with her. "Is everything okay?" Olivia forced a smile that did not quite reach her eyes. Probably. Probably. It was not a reassuring word. She grabbed her coat and hurried toward the exit. Through the window, Nathan watched her disappear into the rainy Chicago night. Minutes later, his own phone vibrated. A message from Vincent appeared on the screen. Ethan Hayes had been admitted to the hospital again this evening. Nathan stared at the message. Then he looked toward the door Olivia had just rushed through. And for the first time since meeting her, he realized there were burdens she could no longer carry alone. The hospital waiting room was nearly empty when Nathan arrived. It was past midnight. The vending machines hummed softly in the corner. Fluorescent lights reflected across polished floors. Outside, rain continued to fall against the windows, turning the city into a blur of distant colors. Nathan spotted Olivia immediately. She sat alone in a plastic chair, her elbows resting on her knees, her hands clasped tightly together. For the first time since he met her, there was no smile. No quick joke. No bright energy filling the room. Just exhaustion. Real exhaustion. She looked up when she heard footsteps. Surprise crossed her face. "Nathan." He stopped a few feet away. I heard about Ethan. Olivia stared at him for a moment. How? The question hung in the air. Nathan considered lying. Instead, he chose honesty. I asked someone to look into your situation. Olivia's eyes widened. The silence that followed felt colder than the rain outside. You investigated me? Nathan immediately realized his mistake. I was worried about you. Olivia stood. Hurt replaced surprise. You had no right. He opened his mouth to explain, but she continued. Do you know how humiliating that feels? Nathan remained still. Olivia, no. Her voice was not angry. Somehow that made it worse. You do not get to decide what is best for me. Every person in Nathan's world usually accepted his help. Some even demanded it. Olivia was the first person who looked genuinely disappointed by it. I was trying to help, he said quietly. That is the problem. She folded her arms. You think help means taking control. Nathan stared at her. The words struck deeper than she realized. Because somewhere inside, he knew she was right. For years he had solved every problem with influence, money, and power. It was the only language he trusted. Olivia looked away toward the intensive care wing. Ethan is going to be okay, she said softly. The doctors think he just needs observation tonight. Relief washed through Nathan. That is good news. Olivia nodded. Neither spoke for several seconds. Then she sat back down. The fight seemed to leave her all at once. Nathan hesitated before taking the chair beside her. How long have you been carrying all of this alone? Olivia gave a tired laugh. Long enough that I stopped counting. Nathan looked around the empty waiting room. You should not have to. Olivia smiled sadly. Life does not always ask what should happen. That answer stayed with him. The clock on the wall ticked forward. Midnight became 1 in the morning. 1 became 2. Neither left. They talked quietly about Ethan. About childhood memories. About favorite movies. About anything except the things that hurt. For the first time, Nathan felt something he had not experienced in years. Peace. Not excitement. Not victory. Peace. Then a nurse appeared from the hallway. Family of Ethan Hayes? Olivia immediately stood. The nurse smiled. He is awake and asking for his sister. Relief flooded Olivia's face. Before she turned away, she looked back at Nathan. The disappointment from earlier was still there, but something else had joined it. Understanding. Thank you for coming, she said softly. Nathan nodded. Always. Olivia disappeared down the hallway. Nathan remained where he was, watching her go. A few minutes later, his phone vibrated. A message from Vincent appeared on the screen. The hospital balance for Ethan's upcoming treatment had been fully paid by an anonymous donor. Nathan stared at the message. Then he slowly typed a reply. Cancel it. Immediately. Because for the first time in his life, there was someone he wanted to help without taking away their dignity. And somehow, that mattered more than solving the problem itself. The following week felt different. Not because anything dramatic happened. Because something subtle changed between them. Nathan still visited the diner almost every evening. Olivia still brought him coffee and challenged nearly everything he said. Yet the invisible wall that had existed between them was beginning to crack. One rainy Tuesday night, the diner closed early because of a plumbing problem. Most customers had already left. The neon sign outside reflected across puddles on the sidewalk, while employees finished cleaning. Nathan remained at his usual booth. Olivia sat across from him with a cup of tea and an expression that suggested she had been thinking about something all day. Can I ask you a question? She said. Nathan smiled slightly. You ask questions constantly. This one is different. He nodded. Go ahead. Olivia studied him for a moment. When was the last time you were happy? The question caught him completely off guard. Not because it was difficult, because nobody had asked it in years. Board members asked about profits. Lawyers asked about contracts. Reporters asked about success. Nobody asked about happiness. Nathan stared out the window. I do not know. Olivia did not laugh. She did not make a joke. She simply waited. That is sad, she said softly. Nathan looked back at her. You think I am sad? I think you forgot there is a difference between being successful and being happy. The words settled heavily between them. Nathan wanted to argue. Instead, he found himself thinking about the penthouse, the expensive cars, the endless meetings, the empty silence waiting for him every night. Maybe you are right. Olivia looked surprised. That was easier than expected. Nathan laughed quietly. Do not get used to it. For a few minutes, they simply sat together listening to the rain. Then Olivia noticed something beneath the cuff of his rolled sleeve. A portion of dark ink stretched across his wrist. You have a lot of tattoos, do not you? Nathan glanced down. A few. Olivia raised an eyebrow. That answer feels dishonest. Nathan shook his head and rolled his sleeves slightly higher. More intricate artwork appeared across his forearm. Olivia stared at it. Not with fear. Not with judgment. Just curiosity. They must all mean something. Nathan looked at the designs covering his skin. Most people saw intimidation. Olivia saw stories. Some of them do. And the others? The others remind me of things I survived. The answer came before he could stop it. Olivia's expression softened immediately. That sounds lonely. Nathan looked away. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Olivia surprised him. You know, I think everybody carries scars. He frowned. Not like mine. She smiled gently. Maybe not the same kind. But everyone has something they are trying to heal. Nathan met her eyes. For the first time, he felt understood in a way that had nothing to do with money or power. Olivia saw the man beneath everything else. The realization was both comforting and terrifying. As they prepared to leave, Olivia gathered her things and slipped on her coat. Before walking out the door, she paused beside his booth. For what it is worth, she said softly, I think there is still a good man hiding under all that armor. Then she disappeared into the rainy Chicago night. Nathan remained seated long after she left. Because for years people had respected him, feared him, admired him, envied him. But Olivia Hayes was the first person who made him wonder whether he could become someone better than the man he already was. The conversation stayed with Nathan for days. Not the part about happiness. Not even the part about armor. It was the way Olivia had looked at him when she said there was still a good man underneath everything else. Nobody had ever said something like that before. Most people saw what he owned. Olivia saw what he carried. On Friday evening, he arrived at the diner to find her sitting alone in a corner booth. Her shift had already ended. A half-finished cup of coffee sat in front of her. She looked thoughtful, almost distant. Nathan slid into the seat across from her. You are off the clock. Olivia smiled faintly. Very observant. Something is wrong. She looked down at the table. You are getting better at reading people. Nathan leaned back. Only one person. For a moment, Olivia seemed unsure whether to laugh or look away. Eventually, she chose neither. The silence stretched comfortably between them. Outside, the city glowed beneath a clear evening sky. Finally, Olivia spoke. Can I ask you something personal? Nathan nodded. You usually do. She studied him carefully. Why did you stop believing in people? The question landed harder than he expected. He looked toward the window. Traffic moved slowly beneath streetlights. A couple walked past holding hands. Somewhere in the diner, dishes clinked softly. Ordinary sounds from ordinary lives. Because I learned what disappointment feels like, he answered. Olivia waited. Nathan appreciated that. She never rushed him. Never filled silence with unnecessary words. Years ago, there was someone. He paused. I thought she loved me. Olivia's expression softened. What happened? Nathan laughed quietly, though there was no humor in it. I spent years building trust. She spent years building an exit. The memory still stung. Not because he missed the woman. Because he missed the version of himself who believed everything would work out. When she left, she took more than a relationship. Olivia listened without interruption. She took your faith in people. Nathan nodded. Something like that. The diner seemed quieter than before. Olivia wrapped both hands around her coffee mug. Can I tell you what I think? Nathan smiled slightly. You are going to anyway. That earned the smallest laugh. Then her expression grew serious. I think you let one person decide what the rest of the world deserved. Nathan frowned. Olivia continued gently. One person hurt you, so you stopped trusting everyone. The words hit with uncomfortable accuracy. Nathan looked away. For years he had justified his distance. His control. His emotional walls. Hearing them described so simply made them harder to defend. Maybe. Olivia shook her head. Not maybe. Her voice remained kind. Nathan, you built an entire life around never being disappointed again. She looked directly into his eyes. But you also built a life where nobody could truly get close. Neither spoke for several seconds. The truth sat between them. Heavy. Unavoidable. Then Olivia smiled softly. For what it is worth, I do not think you are afraid of trusting people. Nathan raised an eyebrow. No. I think you are afraid they might actually care about you. The statement stole every response he had. Because deep down, he knew she was right. Before he could say anything, his phone vibrated on the table. A message from Vincent appeared on the screen. One of Nathan's business rivals had recently begun asking questions about Olivia and her connection to him. Nathan felt his stomach tighten. He looked up at Olivia, who was completely unaware of the message, still smiling, still teasing him about things nobody else dared mention. And for the first time, a new fear entered his mind. Not fear of losing control, fear of losing her. The message changed everything. Nathan stared at the screen for several seconds before locking his phone and slipping it back into his pocket. Across the table, Olivia was still smiling, completely unaware that someone had started paying attention to her for all the wrong reasons. He hated how quickly his instincts took over. His first thought was protection. His second was control. Olivia would hate both. The realization almost made him laugh. "You look worried," she said. Nathan forced a calm expression. "Just business." Olivia tilted her head. That answer usually means it is definitely not just business. Somehow she always knew when he was hiding something. The thought stayed with him long after they left the diner that night. The following week, subtle changes began appearing around Olivia's life. Nothing dramatic. Nothing threatening. Small things. Strange things. A supplier suddenly canceled a long-standing agreement with the diner. A community fundraiser Olivia helped organize lost an important sponsor without explanation. Even Ethan mentioned receiving unusual questions from a stranger about his sister during a routine hospital visit. None of it was dangerous. Yet together, the incidents formed a pattern. Nathan recognized it immediately. Pressure. Somebody was testing boundaries, measuring reactions, looking for weaknesses. One evening, Olivia arrived at his booth carrying coffee and frustration. "People have been acting strange all week." Nathan looked up carefully. "What do you mean?" She slid into the seat across from him. "I do not know. Everything feels off." Her fingers wrapped around the coffee mug. The fundraiser almost collapsed. "Mrs. Donnelly is worried about the diner. Ethan says random people keep asking questions." Nathan remained silent. Olivia studied him for a moment. "You already knew that." It was not a question. Nathan sighed. "Maybe." Her eyes narrowed immediately. "Nathan, I am handling it." The second the words left his mouth, he knew they were wrong. Olivia sat back in her chair. "There it is." "What?" "The thing you always do." Nathan frowned. Olivia pointed at him. "You decide something is your responsibility. Then you try to manage everyone else's choices." The diner seemed unusually quiet around them. Nathan rubbed a hand across his jaw. "I am trying to keep you safe." Olivia's expression softened slightly, but she did not back down. "I know." The honesty surprised him. "Then why are you angry?" She looked down at her coffee. "Because you still think trust and control are the same thing." The words landed with uncomfortable precision. Olivia met his eyes again. "You cannot protect people by taking away their voice." Nathan looked away. Outside the window, Chicago traffic moved beneath glowing streetlights. For years, control had solved every problem he encountered. Yet sitting across from Olivia, it suddenly felt like the wrong answer. "So what do I do?" he asked quietly. Olivia smiled. A real smile. "You trust me." The simplicity of the answer unsettled him. Trust her. Not manage her. Not direct her. Trust her. For a man who had built an empire around control, it felt almost impossible. Then Olivia reached across the table and placed her hand over his. The gesture lasted only a second, barely a moment, yet it felt more powerful than any deal he had ever negotiated. "I am not afraid, Nathan," she said softly. "You do not have to carry everything alone." Nathan looked at her hand, then at her eyes, and for the first time in years, he made a choice that terrified him more than any business risk ever could. He decided to let someone stand beside him instead of behind him. A year later, Nathan sat in the same corner booth where everything had begun. The diner looked different now. Fresh paint covered the walls. New booths lined the windows. The old neon sign had been replaced with one that glowed warmly against the Chicago evening. Yet some things remained exactly the same. The smell of coffee, the laughter of regular customers, the feeling that ordinary moments mattered more than people realized. Nathan glanced toward the counter and smiled. Olivia was arguing with a supplier over the phone. Politely, firmly, completely in control. Some people inherited strength. Olivia built hers one difficult day at a time. The diner belonged to her now. Mrs. Donnelly had retired 6 months earlier and sold the business to the one person she trusted to protect its spirit. Nathan had offered to buy the entire building. Olivia had refused. He expected that. Instead, he helped her secure a fair loan and stood beside her while she built the dream herself. That was the difference now. He no longer tried to solve every problem for her. He simply showed up when she needed him. The front door opened, and Ethan walked inside carrying a bag of groceries. Healthier, stronger, smiling. The treatments had gone well. His doctors were optimistic about the future. "You are early," Ethan said as he dropped into the booth across from Nathan. "That is because, unlike you, I respect schedules." Ethan laughed. "You have definitely been spending too much time around my sister." Nathan looked toward the counter again. "Probably." Ethan followed his gaze and smiled knowingly. "You know, she talks about you when you are not around." Nathan raised an eyebrow. "Should I be worried?" "Not at all." Ethan leaned back. "She says you finally learned how to listen." Nathan laughed quietly. Of all the accomplishments in his life, that one felt strangely important. A few minutes later, Olivia joined them carrying 3 cups of coffee. She slid into the booth beside Nathan and handed him his mug without asking what he wanted. She already knew, just as he knew she would always choose tea after a long day. The simple familiarity felt more valuable than anything money could buy. Outside, the sun slowly disappeared beyond the city skyline. Golden light spilled through the windows, covering the diner in warm colors. Customers chatted softly. Plates clinked. Life moved forward. Olivia reached into her apron pocket and placed something on the table. Nathan immediately recognized it. The receipt from the first cup of coffee she spilled on him. She had kept it all this time. "I found it while cleaning my office," she said. Nathan smiled. "That was an expensive shirt. Best investment I ever made." Their eyes met. Neither looked away. For years, Nathan believed love was something people lost. Something temporary. Something fragile. Olivia taught him something different. Real love was not built from grand gestures or perfect moments. It was built from trust, patience, respect, choosing the same person again and again, even on ordinary days. As the last sunlight faded beyond the windows, Olivia slipped her hand into his. Nathan held it gently. No fear, no walls, no armor, just peace. The kind he had spent years searching for in all the wrong places. Because in the end, she did not change his empire. She changed his definition of success. And for the first time in a very long time, Nathan Blackwood felt completely at home.